Mike.
Yes, Bruce?
Mike C. Jones, come on over here and do a little interview with me. Mike, in your own words, how would you say the picture's going so far?
Huh?
The movie, Day of the Jackal, the movie we're shooting. How's it going?
I don't know. I never saw it.
It's a big wide lens. You're in. Don't worry.
I'm just cleaning my teeth in the reflection.
And here.
Eating salad all day. It is. Don't move.
We need to have the card here.
Go now. They'll send you back to prison.
Remember, public and brutal.
Well, it's a good story. It's a very well-written story. It's a great book. It was a good movie the first time, and it's a very good script.
It had a relatively strong story, very simple story, but I could deal with romance, and I could deal with action, I could deal with suspense. Just all different aspects of filmmaking was what attracted me.
But I think we were all drawn to this because there was, I mean, it has an enormous story drive to it, narrative drive, this piece. And the characters are pretty original. It doesn't really beg the first movie at all, because all the characters on our side are inventions. They don't exist in the book or in the first movie.
It has very interesting and dimensional characters. I mean, you don't know, you know what the overall direction is, but sometimes you get suckered down the wrong way. And then you say, wow, isn't that interesting?
There's nothing but the present for the character. There's no past and there's no future because your life is on the line all the time. So that makes living immediate and exciting.
Once you've got your leads cast, it's important, I always feel, to surround them with the best possible quality of actor. Because what happens then is it elevates everyone. If you've got, you know, when you have someone like Diane Venor, who's a classically trained actress, when you have her come along and she nails it, bang, 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 these guys have got to step their game up, and they have to be as good as that because their professional pride won't let them fall below that. So you're basically, you know, you're trying to create a situation where the group is going to lift everyone. My character's name is Valentina Kozlova. I am a major from the Federation Militia, which is a Russian branch of government. I'm an ex-KGB person, and I work with Interpol, International Police.
Major Kozlova ends the debate about women in combat, as far as I'm concerned.
How's that?
When she saved my life and took out Tarek's brother, she did it knowing she'd be drawing a death sentence down on her own neck.
So the character interested me because it's kind of a man's movie, and this woman's in the middle of it, and because she is disfigured, she doesn't feel that there's anything in her life other than her career.
Diane actually worked on Cotton Club with me years ago. She agreed to play this cameo. She came in as Gloria Swanson in a scene in the Cotton Club. So I hadn't really seen her since then. And it was a delight seeing her again, working with her. She plays this really, the most original character probably in the piece, I think, is her character.
She's good. She's good. And just working with her is an experience. Actors learn from each other, you know. And I watch her, and I'm quite pleased with how she operates and what she does when she's working.
All right, that's enough.
As usual in Hollywood, you sort of sit around and you say, what we need here is a Sidney Poitier type. So we looked at all these sort of Sidney Poitier types, people that had a kind of weight and a stature, and we couldn't find anybody. We couldn't find anybody at all. And we were a couple of days away from shooting, and I still didn't have anyone. I said, well, why don't we try Sidney Poitier? Why don't we just call him and see what he's doing?
You know, actors generally read a script. On page 25, by 25, even page 20, if the actor's part appears meaningfully in the first 20, 30 pages, the actor gets a sense, even then, of what kind of depth here is in this character, and they find what kind of challenges are in the character and how much of it. And that sucks him into it. He then follows that thread through the rest of the film to see if it matures and if it makes interesting turns and if there are surprises to the character. That's what I think most actors are looking for, and that's what traps most actors.
Sidney knew my films, and he liked them a lot, and again, I got on the telephone with him and turned on my best charm, and within 15 minutes he said, okay, I'll do this.
Preston, what about letting me have a go?
Are you crazy? If the right people knew I was letting you walk around without cuffs, I'd get forced retirement.
Sidney brought an enormous amount to this character, Preston. I mean, I keep telling him, I didn't know what to do with that character. Seemed, but he's brought so much to it, so much investment. You know, he's such an extraordinary person that he brings that with him and empowers a character like that in ways that you could never write.
So the combination of the man and the script did me in.
I know that Jackal set you up in that arms deal in Libya. I know Isabella was wounded when you walked into the trap. I also know that it was the business you had chosen.
Did you also know that Isabella was pregnant when she got shot? That our child didn't survive?
I was interested in taking someone and making them play something that they weren't normally known for. Richard normally plays professional types, you know, doctors or lawyers or politicians or what have you. I was interested in taking him and not playing him as a professional, but playing him as an everyman, and letting just the more visceral side of his personality come through, as opposed to the intellectual side.
Richard is quite a remarkable actor. He is a consummate actor. He is so unpredictable as to what's going to happen with him next on the screen. There is an immediacy, and there is a kind of energy that is volatile.
He's got, I don't know how to say the word, untiring energy. And he kicks everything up into an interesting gear, which brings you all up. You know, it's like playing with a great tennis player.
I think emotionally, spiritually, it's a very understandable character. Like any soldier, frankly, in any war. Trained to kill, believes in what he's doing. The reality of death it weighs heavy on his soul.
What are you gonna do, Declan? Just can't seem to protect any of your women.
Let her go. She's nothing to do with this.
Now you can save this girl. What's your name?
Maggie.
Maggie. You can save Maggie, you see? You can save her right now. You just have to put down your little gun. Okay?
As I say, it's a kind of cat and mouse thriller. It's kind of two separate stories, two separate films. One is what Bruce Willis is doing, and the other one is what the others are doing.
I thought I was going to be working with Sidney Poitier and Richard Gere and Diane Venora, and then I'd see Richard and Sidney, and I'd say, how's your movie going? And they'd say, fine. And they'd ask me how my movie was going. But we all worked in separate little units, separate little compartments of the film.
Yeah, everyone asked me, so what's it like working with Bruce? I said, I don't know, I haven't seen him. We have 2 movies here. So he came in and I said, how's your movie going? I said, great, how's yours? Great, terrific.
The character of the Jackal is what really interested us. I mean, he's such a great character, and it was very much one of those, they almost got him, then they don't.
It's a piece that they can't get ahead of. And because they cannot, they are going to be listening to every word, watching every motion to try to get ahead of us, but we won't let them.
It's a series of near misses. They're a little ahead of him, they're a little behind him, and yet he keeps going and going and going towards the target.
Hey! I give up. Well, I guess the automatic sighting works.
Yeah.
thought I was about to sprawl.
Well, Lamont, I'm gonna have to speed test it now.
Speed test.
So, run.
What do you mean?
I mean, run. Now.
I always believe that you should have as strong an actor in the role of the villain as possible, because it balances out you know, your hero is only as good as the villain is bad.
Well, he's a good guy. He's really, you know, basically a nice guy in our...
You know, there are a whole bunch of people who would normally be chosen, they specialize in villains. To me, the secret of a good villain is to take someone that it's a kind of unexpected turn for them.
I've been wanting to play a villain on film for a long time now, and this seemed like a fun character to play.
We wanted to deal with the acting style in a very simple way to keep him completely controlled. All his bodily movements completely controlled until he maybe raise an eyebrow or just have one, you know, lip curl, and that would make an immense impact on the audience because they're then watching for any signs at all.
So much of what I do is not acting in scenes, is movement and you see me doing things that are sometimes mysterious and sometimes explained and sometimes not explained until much later in the film.
Pre-vol, it's a pre-vol power unit right here. Just some standard red house paint. Roll it. $39.95. Call me. I'm your pal, Bruce Willis, and I'll show you how to paint any new or late model Ford Chevy. Action.
The Jackal, by the very nature of the piece, is a cipher, but he's so competent and so, well, for lack of a better word, cool, that you end up rooting for him to some extent, because it is just one man against everybody's after him and he's alone.
If you want me to do this, you're going to have to pay me.
How much?
$70 million.
Why not? Done.
It's a businessman. It's just about money, terrorism. Really, when you reduce it down to its lowest common denominator, it's about money.
Well, I would love to stay and do a photo shoot and.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a little ripple for Mr. Willis. Thank you very much.
No, I don't want any Canadian. I want American money, and I want it now.
American money.
They don't pay off the Brits. I want to tell you that right now.
Basically, you get your actors and you get your costume designer and you get your set designer. They go off and they do their own detailed research about their own departments.
I did actually some very specific preparation that well, frankly, if I told you about it, I'd have to kill you. So, some of it I can discuss and some of it I can't. But I met with a group of men from the U.S. government whose specific function it is to catch terrorists, to track terrorists. And I heard some very startling things, some very sometimes frightening things, but it was a very enlightening meeting.
To play the reality of the IRA, I went to Ireland and talked to people there, talked to people ex-IRA, present IRA guys in the States. Read a lot of books. Found the right voice that I wanted to use. Brendan Gunn, this wonderful dialect coach I found in Dublin.
I've read a lot of books. I continue to read all the time. I've read about a man named Beria, who was Stalin's first lieutenant. I've read about living behind the Iron Curtain, and I've looked at pictures of Russian houses from different classes. I have engaged a speech coach who takes me through the dialect and created a dialect so it wouldn't be upper class or just flat-out peasant, but kind of in the middle.
My character is a guy who is upholding the law, and he is a remarkably interesting man. He's a man of many colors. He is dimensional, and once you get to know him, you begin to see that there's more than meets the eye with this man. At least that's the way I approach him as an actor.
The secret is to try and find what each individual actor wants or needs, and you turn the key and you rev them up. There were no great egos running around on this set because we were all in the same boat. We all had to travel to some bad hotels and some really out-of-the-way places. And what tends to happen, contrary to a lot of popular belief, it really bonds you in a way, you know.
Well, here we are in Toronto.
Well, at this stage of the game, I'm not quite sure where we are, I think.
Welcome to Saskatchewan.
We're in London, here we are.
I think it's London, either that or this is a painted backdrop.
It's Bug Day here on the set, here in Charleston.
Here's what you can see right here, a little bit of London history for you. Bombed out during the war, not bombed out during the war.
Here in Montreal, Montreal. Speak a lot of French up here.
The production of the film was about 20 weeks. We shot 6-day weeks, and on the 7th day you recce for more locations.
When I was brought onto the project, Michael, our director, had put out preliminary scouts to many of the cities as dictated in the script. The script says we go from A to B to C to D. So the first thought was send a scout, 2 or 3, 5, we had quite a few on in the beginning, to all of these cities.
You're essentially looking for locations around the globe, and to do that you've got to travel there. And you've got to do one trip just to see if the place is going to work one way or the other, if there's plenty of opportunities to film there. And then you have to go back and tie down locations, and then you have to go back again with the crew and take them through the location technically what you intend shooting.
There are thousands, there are hundreds of locations, there's so many possibilities. What seems interesting to go visit firsthand? Before ever deciding on our ultimate location, we probably visited the given cities and our candidates for the locations 2 or 3 times before ever filming there.
So you're basically doing 3 tours of the locations before you actually turn up to shoot.
This film was all over the place. We started with, I think, 13 or 14 locations and ended up with about that or maybe a couple more, but we traveled quite a bit. The whole film moves from city to city.
We started off in Montreal and went down through Chicago and Washington, Wilmington, Richmond, and then we ended up back in Europe and shot in Helsinki and Moscow and London.
If I'm playing very difficult scenes, I never see where I am. I stay in my hotel room, literally, and I go to the studio or I go to location and I work through it and I go home and I sleep and I get up early and and then we get in a plane and we leave. And I didn't see the Tower of London and I did not see the Louvre and I did not see, you know, the obelisk in Washington, D.C. I didn't see any of those things.
It was a tough one just because you were moving around all the time. You couldn't get settled and the crew was changing apart from the core people.
Now, what Michael wants in this shot, do that thing you're doing before, like this, where you get there.
I'll do one more of these and then go over there.
So was that out of focus or something? Jesus Christ, come on. That's the shot.
Let's just do one more. Yeah, while we're here. I know the crew needs another one.
I love this.
Once you commit to making a film that has a lot of detail and a lot of size and scope with extras and what have you, you have to maintain that kind of discipline throughout the film. You can't cut corners many places.
Gunfire!
Now, other than pressure, there's nothing going through there.
It's magic. Magic. Good night. Thank you very much, sir.
When I read the script, I mean, I have, and it changes, mind you, but I have visions of the movie. I mean, I see, as you do when you read a book, you see the environment that the character's walking in or talking in or whatever they're doing in. I mean, it's what we all do when we read. Is that in contradiction to what the director's vision is? Often, yeah. So, I mean, there's a bit of conversation that goes on there to decide what is not necessarily the happy medium, but what works for both of us. What am I adding to it, and what is he adding to it? Hopefully we take the best of both.
I'm not, I don't think, a control freak, although I think most of my crew would disagree with me. I tend to like to keep a loose hand on the throttle. I think it's important that you make room for people, for good people to do their work.
No, sir. I do love him, really, but I will knock him out. No, sir.
I think you have a very creative director here, and he will make absolutely sure you get real good value for the money, and you'll certainly know where you are, and some very clever and very good shots.
I'll make it work.
I know you will. I know you will, but I want you to get the best out of it.
He's not a man to compliment you, because he says, look, I don't give compliments. You've got to be confident in yourself, knowing that if I don't say anything, it's cool. I said, I come from enormous rejection, darling. I don't need a compliment. I'm cool. So whenever he said cut, I didn't go, oh, how was it, Michael? How was it? I knew what he meant. Didn't need it. You know, if it works, otherwise he'd say, let's do that again. He's not going to let it look bad.
Exceptional. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, and cut it.
You know, you look at his films. I mean, we're all, obviously, before you agree to do a film like this, you look at a man's work, and Michael's work has always been about the people. And I think he had a little caution about taking on a picture like this, which in some hands might be pyrotechnic.
That was my baseball swing.
Go Yankees.
He's a very good storyteller, and that really is my criteria for working with any film director. It's a very, very difficult job, and Michael had not only the choreography of all the movement of the Jackal around the world, but also the shooting two separate films at the same time, shooting what my character was doing and also what the good guys who were trying to catch me were doing. It's a lot to keep in your head, and he's worked very hard on it, and I have a lot of admiration for him.
Because a film is really, really made in the editing room, it behooves you, it's just smart to get as much material as you can so that you can construct it later. And in that way, you then listen to a lot of what the creative people are saying, and you try and shoot a few alternatives to things just to give yourself an option.
You think he's the one who's up against it? It's the other way around.
It's a wrap! No, no, no! Come on, Adam, run! Stop, stop!